So, hi everyone. We are very, very excited to have you already. While we are recording, there are hundreds of people that signed up. This is a very hot topic, and I'm very, very excited about the guest we have today. It's my first time of me trying to host a podcast. So I hope I'll do like a good job. If not, feel free, everyone here, to direct me. But the idea here is that we're talking a lot about how AI is changing the world. And today it's about how AI is going to change commerce from shoppers to brand and what does it mean. And we brought the builders from Shopify that actually maybe have like a front row seat to how Shopify think about it and how, I don't know, the world maybe think about it. And Itai, our VP strategy, that he also spends a lot of his time researching and thinking about AI and commerce. And myself, Tomer, one of the two co-founders and CEO of Yotpo, also spending a lot of my time on specifically, I would say, discoverability with AI, but AI and commerce also on a broader spectrum. So I'll let our guests introduce themselves better than me.
Great. I can start. I'm Ellen Dunn. I'm a product director at Shopify. I've been at Shopify for almost a decade. And I have been working a lot in conversational commerce, like from years ago, which is really was focused on merchants actually talking to their buyers in real life and trying to sell through those conversations. And so I'm really excited about this era that we have entered and this future that has arrived with AI really bringing conversational commerce and fully automated conversational commerce to life. So excited to be here to talk about this and how we can ready everyone for this future.
Hi everyone, my name is Mujtaba Khambati. I'm sort of new to Shopify, but I've been in the industry for well over 2 decades, and I've spent the last decade doing work on AI. And I've seen all the failures and all of the successes lately with AI, the extreme interest with agentic capabilities that AI offers, and how consumers are now like rushing to do more things with AI, particularly with shopping and discovery. And we'll get into some of that, but it's been quite fun diving into shopping with AI as sort of the focal point over the last several months here at Shopify. And I'm excited to talk to you all about some of the stuff we're doing and seeing as we work on this together.
So I'll follow Itai. I'm VP strategy at Yotpo. Strategy at Yotpo basically has two sides. So I deal with product strategy, our own, like Tomer said, research and thinking about how AI is going to change commerce and what that means for us and where we should invest. The other side is actually strategic partnerships. So one of the areas I work on is our Shopify partnership. So this topic is close to my heart in this forum. So yeah, very excited to be here today.
Thank you. So, to be honest, when we were preparing for this show, let's call it, we did like a prep talk, and it was like amazing. We had like 4 different topics that we outlined that we think are interesting from our experience with brand. The first one is like discovery in the age of AI agent. That's going to be the first topic we're going to cover. After that, like in that kind of a world, what's even like a PDP? And if a product page has like a new kind of a wall, we're going to talk about authenticity, user-generated content, and trust in general in a world of AI, which becoming like more and more important. And of course, like some practical strategies that brands can actually take today to drive their strategy in an agentic world. And so there's a lot of statistics around there how AI is impacting like discovery, product search, shopping. Like we did our own survey and we saw like 48% consumers are now like searching on LLMs. I know Adobe had like their own survey that I think the Shopify team shared that like 39% of US consumers are already using generative AI in discovery. So definitely it's massive. So even if conservatively we say, I don't know, in 3 years, 10, 15, 20, choose your number percent of commerce is going to move to agentic, this is probably the biggest shift, right? It's like saying, you know what? Retail is now opening on the moon and it's like 1 billion people on the moon. So this is something that everyone needs to be prepared to. And it's something that we picked up a few quarters ago, probably like a year and a half ago, that we started to double into that. And I'll shamelessly just mention my own newsletter about it, Commerce GPT, that the entire purpose of the newsletter is exactly the hours that we spent with startup, with our own research, with our own data science team to share uh, what do we see work in discoverability in LLM. So Commerce GPT, check it out and leave that aside. So now let's talk a little bit about discovery at the age of AI and what's called agentic commerce, right? So where shoppers are not going to go to the storefront, they're actually going to do the research and they're actually shopping inside the LLM. We saw Shopify announce some really, really exciting stuff from the MCP capabilities to the checkout inside the chat GPT that was announced a while ago. So I'm just curious for the builders here that are actually helping everyone from an ecosystem standpoint moving forward. How do you see and how do you view like what discovery in the age of AI in general before we'll go to like some tactics?
Yeah, maybe I'll kick off and Ellen, you can follow in on some thoughts. What we're seeing, of course, is an early wave. We have from BFCM, the Black Friday, Cyber Monday that happened in the past already, some very high numbers where users were converting more when they went to stores that had agents on them. We were also seeing that a large number of purchases were being made, and this is the quote that Tomer was mentioning at the beginning, Adobe numbers, a large number of purchases that were being made through some AI interactions. And we are seeing this, it's quite common in our day-to-day that we have incorporated AI into our day-to-day lives, and so have consumers. So when it comes time for particularly considered purchases, there is a lot of actions that users are doing inside, say, ChatGPT or Perplexity to weigh options and get some research. So you're not, as a consumer, having to read all these different reports and websites and compare, and you get a little bit of intelligence back. We're seeing that start, and more users are doing it for more actions. The thing though is, if you're a merchant, you got to be asking yourself, the conversation may be happening outside of your storefront, and it may be important for you to show up in that conversation in an accurate way. When users are asking what are the best shoes to go buy, is your brand showing up amongst what is considered by that AI as best? If the user is asking, I want to buy a luxury watch, is your brand considered a luxury watch? Because that is an ambiguous term that somebody like an AI is disambiguating. But if you follow through on that discovery part, users will then make decisions based on a lot of different aspects like return policies, shipping to your destination, very specific information. And we know that AI needs to rely on accurate information to be able to answer those questions. So I want to just pause here to like motivate the fact that this is happening. We're seeing this happen. We have evidence even from the last BFCM. We should probably see more of it at the coming BFCM. But I want Ellen to be able to jump in because there's a bit more towards making your brand sort of participate accurately in this discovery journey.
Yeah, I think there's two things that are interesting. One is like just to sort of put a finer point on what Mushaba just shared. Like I think a really easy way to think about it is in the old world, someone's typing into Google best running shoes. In the new world, they're saying, I'm training for a marathon. I need good shoes for, flat feet and running on pavement or something like that, right? So like, does your product information deliver on those types of details in a way? Or does, if a buyer is asking a similar question around like best brands for marathon style running shoes, do you have brand information that would indicate, or like structured information that would indicate that your shop specializes in that kind of thing, right? So that discovery was like that understanding of a brand is really easy to do when you land on a storefront, because these merchants, these sellers have spent a lot of investment making their storefront bring their brand alive. But when these conversations are happening on other surfaces, like how do you translate that brand story into like a ChatGPT or Perplexity, right? So that's what I think is really interesting, and those are some of the tools we're trying to build to help merchants like show up in that way. Even when it's not just product information, which I think we'll get into a lot in this conversation, but if it's your brand and your brand story and who are you and who founded the brand and what do you really care about and are passionate about, that kind of structured data. We're also at Shopify helping merchants to put that into a place that is accessible for LLMs to pull out and like be able to kind of tell that story on your behalf.
And maybe
Yeah, it's almost like
I'll
I'm sorry, Itai. I'm sorry. It's almost like the store needs to get richer or more structured.
Both, probably. Both
Yeah.
right,
richer.
and more nuanced. Also, something you both are talking about is when the difference between old search, right? You get a lot of results and you click in and you do your research, and here so
Right.
much more of the research is being done for you and is taking you so much
Right.
further into this research sort of journey that being specific, answering the use cases, the needs, the really how you differentiate yourself is so critical. And I know it's one of the places where Shopify is so unique to be able to power so many different D2C brands with so many kind of specific brands and specific products. It really is critical to add that kind of information and really explain to the agents what your brand and your product is all about to be able to be surfaced.
Yeah,
And
so I
I
have a
would say like
question.
the other thing that we see, right, which is pretty cool, is that buyers who are coming out of these conversations where they've actually been able to get all this information, when they eventually do land on your storefront to make the purchase or to make their final decision between two products, they have way higher intent and they're way more likely to convert because they've already done all that research up front inside of an AI agent. And so they land on your store and it's like, boom, they get what they need and they make the
That's
purchase.
super
So
cool.
like, that's the great news,
Yes.
on like storefront traffic that comes from these agents, really, really high intent, really likely to convert.
Yeah, so I have a question. One of the things we did in our customer advisory board, we showed like our, let's say, top people from the merchant side a few capabilities of how we can take their reviews and reviews attribute into the LLMs. And one of the first things that came out is control, right? Because in the storefront they have like 100% control, and in LLM they have like zero control. So what do you recommend, Brent, like practically to think about the control inside LLMs?
That's an excellent point. I think when we see storefronts from the pre-AI, let's say 2, 3 years ago, they were being optimized for human eyes, right? Like on your mobile screen, on a large desktop screen, make sure that it's visual, the information is summarized because people are busy and they're but now you've got AI and it's got this like voracious appetite to like read and ingest, and it can reason over large volumes of information. So you almost have to like have the human eye version and the AI detail version so that the AI that is sort of summarizing, if it's Perplexity, for instance, it's getting the right information and not missing things. You can put more for that AI. And so we've been thinking through how merchant storefronts, can evolve. Sometimes you can put stuff on your storefront, and AI will reason over it because it has the web and it can search, etc. But sometimes it's just like you don't want to clutter up your storefront, and so we've created an app that we announced in May at Editions called the Knowledge Base app that gives merchants the ability to view what we already know about your store. You install the app and there's auto extracted FAQs that show up, and you can say, yep, that sounds good. I have nothing more to add. Or you can look at that and say, I do have more to add. I think it's missing a brand story. Or I think I would like to say something about, I don't know, how I handle tariffs. Maybe that was sensitive and I don't want to be able to talk about that on my storefront. So you can now use the knowledge base app to sort of create this extensive version, if you want to, that AI will have access to in order to answer questions about your store. Remember, AI is just going to try its very best to answer users' questions. And the more information you provide it, the more it can then be factual and accurate about your store.
I would like a funny, as a former designer and having been in this world for a while, everyone remembers like above the fold and below the fold when you're designing, right? So as a visually, you have to have all the important information above the fold. Like LLMs and this new world of agentic commerce gives us the opportunity to put so much below the fold that you would never have put back in the old days, right? But all of that additional content, all those rich details can now like live in a way that LLMs can pull them out, summarize, search through them, find the pieces of that information that are relevant to the exact user who's doing the search. But you don't have to have a product page necessarily that's cluttered with all that information. Like your above the fold is still looking great for those who are actually like landing and interacting with your storefront. So I like that analogy because it's such an old term that goes way back to
Yeah.
designing
So basically, you're
internet.
saying like PDPs and storefront in general, right, are like no longer for just humans; they're also for agents. And
Exactly.
therefore, when like designing, Shopify is building capabilities that can help. Yotpo is building capabilities that can help. But more in general, like from less tactically, like, okay, what does it mean that I need to now think about my storefront? Some of it for humans, some of it for agents. So above the fold, below the fold is a great example. Any more thoughts on ideas that brand need to think about and when they think about designing their storefront also for agents?
Yeah, I'll offer one more. Remember when users come to storefronts, we sort of define the thing that they go see. We give them maybe a pop-up that says you can get a 10% discount if you give us your email. We might give them some choice spots. Enter this door if you want men's stuff. Enter this door if you want women's stuff. And we sort of leave it to the user to navigate, and we try our best to make the visual appeal of our products show up very well. Users aren't often now operating in the same way as they were operating 2, 3 years ago. And we know this from how you see users change their search habits. The big question is, what's happening to Google? Or is ChatGPT taking some of the queries away? Well, the honest truth is behaviors have changed. Users are wanting more conversational ways to look things up. So you've got to maybe embrace some aspects of your storefront to be more conversational. You can have your visual elements as you had before, but having the ability to have natural language questions where users can search, or maybe ask detailed questions. I'm on a PDP and I now want to know what your
You're
return
stealing our
policies
product
are.
roadmap. We're gonna announce a few stuff soon. You're stealing it.
We'll talk more, but I do think storefronts get evolved in conversational ways too.
Yeah, and like rethinking your search bar on your storefront even. Like what is that what does that return? If you ask a long-winded question, what is the user going to get results that make sense? Like let's hope so, right? Because that is the behavior that we're seeing. So
And it's such a power, right? Because now you're able to actually get from people the questions that they want answered. It's not just clicks and monitoring where they're going in the funnel to go to conversion
yeah,
and what products they looked at. It's like they're actually asking you and you're learning from that data. It's gold. And then to Tomer's point, our roadmap is how do you then take that and turn it into a loop of collecting the right data from the users that would end up getting surfaced and sorting and showing the right user, the right data to those customers and the agents back
yeah.
on the PDP is such a different kind of mentality to how e-commerce was happening on the D2C website until now, right? You're kind of
Yeah,
the guesswork is kind of getting done. You're going to have the
it's a great
information,
flywheel, right? Is what you're describing of like,
right?
and that could even change based on the season or the trends and like what are people asking about? How are they asking it? You being able to, as a seller, see that in real time and then adjust the descriptions that are on your product page, et cetera. Like what do people really care about? They care about where it's manufactured, or they care about its sustainability or what kind of materials. Like those are all things you can dynamically be updating to make your products again like have a better chance of being discovered in for buyers who where those are the things they've expressed to the agent that they really care about. And that's just a really cool thing to be able to like do in such a quick iteration.
Yeah, I have to say one of the things that maybe it's my entrepreneurial spirit that gets me excited. It's like it's a reset, right, in user behavior, like you said. So now I can compete with Nike, like I can compete with the big ones, right? When you think about like entrepreneurship in general, like so many small brands now, they need to figure out a way, and they can have an early move advantage versus like the big ones that in like SEO, go beat Nike in SEO. Good luck with that, right? That's probably a war that no one is worth fighting. I don't know any brand, by the way, from our customers that is really trying to win versus the massive ones. And on the other hand, we have some massive brands that I see how they're enjoying like the organic traffic coming from SEO. And now with like the generative engine optimization, like this is why I think when I at least talk to our customers, I try to instill like urgency, because if you do move quickly, and I think it's phenomenal that Shopify is helping its merchant, because then you can get a head start and you can optimize, and then you can do it by season. You can get better. That doesn't really matter as long you're in the game. And now
Yeah.
many brands are not in the game, right?
And if a buyer's not searching for a brand name or a specific branded product name, then it does level the playing field quite a bit for other brands to get to show up in those results, which is great because, yeah, you're right. In the world of SEO, you're not going to get on the first page of a Nike search result, right? But you might get on the first page of marathon shoes for flat feet, right? So I think it is exciting, and I agree with you on the urgency there.
I think when we look at this with queries, it plays out exactly, Tomar. You're absolutely right. The search box versus the chat box. When you look at the queries people put in the chat box, they tend to be longer. As Ellen was saying earlier, like the running shoes for flat feet for a marathon. Like people will be a bit more descriptive in a chat box and more keyword in a search box. And so what that means is that you get the ability to show up because you can meet the intent more richly, more deeply for the user. A user looking for vegan leather versus a user looking for a specific type of thing that, makes them feel special. I think this is a great opportunity for brands to really shine without being drowned in that maybe SEO game and an ad game that was maybe favoring bigger brands or bigger spenders in the search era. This, with the AI era, starts to open up some opportunities for sure.
Yeah, for
I
me,
think
it's like,
any of us.
no,
Sorry,
go
Tamar.
ahead, go ahead.
I was just going to say that any of us that use ChatGPT or Perplexity, you all of a sudden see these results. I get linked to these Reddit pages or these blog posts that I would have never probably arrived on in kind of the classic SEO. And again, brands have such an opportunity to identify this new evolving um, mechanism, and that again, I don't want to steal the sort of move to a different topic, but going back to discovery, I think a big part of discovery is now making sure that like reputation management, like making sure that you your surface not only on your PDP, definitely on your PDP, but there's these new channels that have been coming up that I think I haven't thought as much about Reddit or YouTube kind of expert content until the last few months, but it's really changing the game, and I think brands have an amazing opportunity to get surfaced and control their own kind of fate through being first, like Tomer said.
Yeah, and I also think like to remind everyone, like eventually, at least my opinion, there will be ads there. The ad game will begin at someday, right? And we saw that on any new consumer platform. And until the ads are going to arrive, because when ads are going to arrive, we all know prices go up pretty quickly. Like brand has to take advantage of it. This is like the biggest, I don't know, I think since at least Yotpo started, it's the biggest shift we've seen. And again, even if 10%, 15% of e-com is going to move in the next 3 years to like agentic commerce, that's like massive. That means like so much. And I actually think again the the first movers here will have like a lot to gain. This is why at least we are building like a lot of our roadmap is going towards exactly those area. Also a lot on like what you said about conversational on the PDP. Because if I start my buying journey like through a conversation, I would probably want to continue it and getting more detailed question now on specific products and all of that. Something like we are big believers in. We've started to see like some really interesting results. So all of it makes tons of sense. It's a great segue. We have like a saying inside Yotpo that no user reads like review number 1207. But you know who does read it? The LLM, the agent.
That's right.
And therefore, like quality and authenticity, and we invested heavily to extract the attributes very accurately from the reviews. So if that specific product, we have like a customer that had like a specific, I think it was like a pen or something that was 2 users or 3 users said it's great for their psoriasis. No one would never have seen that. But now when you ask, actually the agent knows about it. Because when you think about PDPs, context really matter. Because I can ask Ellen, hey, this is a great necklace. Where did you buy it? You can share a little bit about the brand, the story, your connection. The agent doesn't know. And a lot of like the PDP is about context, like you mentioned. And we are big believers, of course, biased, but big believers that from the reviews, you can extract and create metadata that can give much more context, and actually the quality of the content now becoming much more important. If for users, okay, I just want to see there's more than X amount of review, the average star rating is 4.7, and I read 1 or 2 reviews, great. An agent doesn't work that way, right? So I'm just curious your point of view on like in general authenticity now that you talked a little bit about it, about the fact that it needs to be accurate. So what's your thought? Because the AI, right, everything is fake. That's like another problem. I don't know if we're actually talking or it's your avatar now talking to me, and it's going to get worse. So what's your thought on authenticity, trust in general in the world of agentic commerce?
Yeah, I want to be real. Like, we're all excited, and I've spent so much time on AI as well. We're talking so much here about AI. The thing with AI is it is new, and as it is new, we're discovering guardrails and learning things. It does create some sense of anxiety in terms of being authentic, making sure you're well represented. If you're listening to this, you're probably one of those who want to be prepared, and some of that aspect of being prepared stems a little bit from a little bit of anxiety too. Um, Not everything has been solved. Hallucination has and will continue to be a thing that we have to take
Can you explain
into
for everyone
account.
what do you mean by that?
So if users are asking an AI what your return policy is, the AI is more biased towards trying to answer your question. And if you provide an answer, it will most often use that answer. But if you don't provide an answer, it may try to invent an answer based on the fact that perhaps 30-day return windows are common. And such promises then become like made up promises by the AI, and the user might believe them. So the way that AI tackles it, separate from merchants, is provide sources and links. But what merchants can go do is make sure that there is adequate FAQs. Perhaps we talked about the knowledge base app. That's one source that you can have a lot of FAQs. You can have them directly on your storefront too. The knowledge base app certainly is an option, but you can have them on the knowledge on your storefront, because what you're doing is you're preparing your storefront to be read by AI and giving it the information to answer questions. Now you can do like take the horse to the water but can't make it drink. You can do what you can to prepare. The tool that we have is somewhat an imprecise tool. AI is going to sometimes hallucinate, and we are still, as an industry, trying to work through the guardrails around this. So the suggestion of like knowledge base, put stuff on your storefront, think about AI is certainly like good. You should go follow, but it's not going to like be the 100%
Yeah.
guarantee, unfortunately,
This is
around
why, by the way,
AI.
we try to help with like generate as many reviews and have
Right.
like specific questions and specific prompts. And we actually have like an
Yeah.
AI assistant that helps users to write content exactly from the reason you mentioned. Because
Yeah.
the merchant cannot think about everything themselves, and we try to enrich.
And we know like this is not new behavior, like a very savvy buyer who, especially if you're buying, like Mishba mentioned, like the considered purchase, like something big, something you're going to buy once every 10 years. You're not just going to look at the content on that store, right? You
Yeah.
really do care about reviews because that's other people who are talking. Like if I have dry skin and I want to buy this product, I don't really care about any other review except the ones that are from people who say, I have dry skin and here's what it did for me. Then there's another body of sort of evidence out there that the AI agents are good at summarizing, which is like Reddit and other sites like that. So it's like that triangulation and like, so yes, you have some control over trying to collect a lot of reviews and, you know, having good customer service and all those things, because if you like, let's say a merchant might, people have bad experience with customer service, that's going to show up on Reddit and in other sites like that, right? So you need to be aware of where people are talking about your brand and, you know, make sure that A, you know what's being said, and B, that you can respond to it or you can address it. So it's like those three bodies of sort of content of like your own site and everything rich that you can include there. Product reviews, because they're so key to people making purchasing decisions. And then the other stuff that's out there that where people like really are habituated to go and look at those sources and trust those sources because there are so many voices who are chiming in there.
So great segue now to the next topic is like, so let's talk about like brand strategies, right? So you talked about now shifting like on the storefront. You talked about like, let's say outside of the storefront. I think besides buying Reddit stocks, that I think everyone here is now taking Reddit, and Reddit is becoming more important. Any other ways in like from a strategy standpoint, like so the knowledge base app is one. We said like outside of your storefront. We said about the importance of reviews. We said about conversational elements on your storefront. Anything else that you think from again, all strategy or tactic that you recommend brands thinking about?
So I want to come back to one aspect which maybe starts to address some of this topic. So we left the last segment with maybe AI can hallucinate. We should be prepared, do the very best. Um, a lot of the talk outside tends to be very worrisome sometimes about AI, but it does grow the pot, right? Like, I think the ability for us now with AI to connect more users that have an intent to buy with products they want to buy is greater. We've always seen that we've had our own shopping
I
lists
love
in
it.
our mind. If I
Yes.
had time, I would go buy this. I would go buy. I wish I had the right desk lamp, and we never find the time sometimes to go do this research. With AI, it unlocks this, right? And so we're starting to see with BFCM, all of those numbers are indicative of the fact that products are being matched with greater conversion to users that have intent. And so I think that the ability to maybe think through who the users are that you try to serve and make sure that we have the ability to frame your brand really to embrace that allows you to stand out, right? When we talk about this vegan leather example, when people are choosing a particular style for their life, for what they want to wear, how they want to represent themselves, these are the things that usually people are asking friends, asking AI, looking at. And I think the ability to describe the shoes that you make or the bags that you make very specifically, that elicits the right reviews, that allows you to sort of shape the FAQs around the product that you have, makes that brand really stand out within your storefront and outside of your storefront for these kinds of conversational purchases.
Uber awesome. Uber awesome. Helen, anything that comes to your mind?
I mean, just like to doubling down on the brand story thing, you had mentioned like my necklace, right? I could totally tell you the artist who made this necklace and all of that. And like it probably all those details are not on her website, but it is the reason that I continue to buy products from this person, right? And this is where like Shopify is really wanting to represent D2C, direct to consumer, these merchants who are entrepreneurs or out there building a product, they're really passionate about it. And that is like such a unique thing that a lot of consumers these days care about who they're buying from and what the story is there. And so if you haven't thought about bringing that to life on your website or other ways, like through your customer service and the touch points that you have with customers, like this is a really good time to do that, because I do feel like consumers are making different decisions, why they want to buy something, and sort of knowing the story, having some connection to that product or the person behind the product, I think is really key. And I'm biased because I work at Shopify and I get to talk to a lot of these merchants, but it really makes a difference in how I think about any purchase decision. It's like understanding who the brand is and why they're passionate about making whatever it is they're making. And so I just can't like overemphasize the brand story. I think it's like such an interesting way to distinguish yourself in this market. And you're not gonna, buyers aren't seeing just a giant page of search results, right? They're seeing some selected results and like that should resonate with them. And if there's some key points in there around, who, like why you made this particular color palette or whatever it is, then I think that really helps in converting those buyers.
If I can tell a bit of, so we in Editions announced knowledge base as well as storefront MCP. We didn't talk a lot about storefront MCP, but just a brief mention. It allows you to create like the storefront conversational agent. There is a brand in India. So weddings in India, if you like look it up, they're very colorful. They're multi-day events. And so there's this brand in India that built using the storefront MCP, very sort of center of the screen, bottom of the screen. As soon as you enter, you can imagine it's a wedding attire website, so it's very colorful already. And they have this thing at the very bottom that welcomes you. So the thing that the merchant, the developer was telling us was a lot of people feel that personal touch. It's an emotional time. There's tons of color. There's tons of things to go and decide. And so if you're the groom's family, the bride's family, like just having that personal touch through the storefront MCP chat that they built on the so yes, the website's beautiful, but that sort of added that human element. And when Ellen was talking about, I can tell you the artist and the story, and that made a big difference they're seeing in their users. So people are coming in, they feel like I'm talking to, auntie somebody who is like helping me plan what I should wear for the different days of my wedding versus it's just a store and I'm all left on my own and I've got so many stresses anyway. And now I got to stress about what I got to go buy.
Very interesting. No, that's actually like a great example. And I also have to be in my first Indian wedding. I heard so much about it. I have to go one time. I really have to go.
Go hungry, you will eat a lot.
Yes. I heard. So I think we covered like so many different topics here and so much like actually very useful information. So I don't know if like, again, just to wrap it up, if you have like any other small tips or anything to think about how to take my brand. It can be even if I'm like an entrepreneur. So we talked a lot about like telling your story and how you're unique. But even if I'm like, let's say an executive in a large brand, what should I do to really carry my brand forward in a agentic first world? I don't know if you have anything, because we really covered so many different points, but if you do, now it's a great time.
Yeah, just to follow up on like the storefront agent example that Mushwa just gave, and I think like having a storefront agent is because like, even though yes, a lot of discovery and shopping is happening on these platforms that are not your storefront, buyers are expecting, like you said earlier, to continue the conversation when they get to your storefront, ask a few last questions. And I just want to make it clear like how easy it is to really train your own storefront agent to speak the way you want, like you want your brand to be spoken about, and use the vocabulary and the lexicon. It's like very similar to if you have a retail store, you hire a new sales assistant, you very much train them on like how to talk about the products, how to talk about sizing, how to talk about whatever that's very specific to your products and your brands. And you can do the same with a storefront agent with AI that is on your own store, where you really can control the voice and the tone and the types of words it uses and all of that. And like, again, that really brings it to life and helps buyers connect with kind of the brand and the story. And so it's a fun thing to play around with. Even if just like
I
the
played with it.
MCP,
It's
storefront
super easy.
MCP.
Super
Yeah, it's
easy.
very easy to set up, and then you can just start training it against, what you care about, how you want things to be spoken about, like, and it's just it's a fun thing to do. And while we can't completely translate that to how your brand gets spoken about with, in Perplexity or ChatGPT, you can still, with the knowledge base and with what you have in your product detail page, you can like create ground truth that has some of that in it that then the LLM will use and extract, and hopefully that sort of brand essence will come through a little bit. So, it's not to say you have no control over what's happening when the LLM is talking about your products. You can influence that, and it's definitely worth setting something up on your store, playing around with it, seeing how it works, seeing how it feels, seeing what the connection, like the emotional connection, can be, because it's quite powerful.
I'll say three things. One, hopefully you're already on Shopify. If not, consider being on Shopify. We have our merchants show up on Perplexity. We talked about some agentic commerce capabilities recently that Shopify announced as well. So we are recognizing users are spending a lot of time on chat apps like Perplexity and others, and we're making sure our catalog for our merchants shows up there. Number two, as Ellen mentioned, consider a storefront agent. It's really easy to set up storefront MCP, and you can customize a lot. And number three, we talked about the knowledge base app as your opportunity to really view all the FAQs associated with your store that AI will be able to see, as well as a lot of usage data on how AI is already answering or not answering questions about your store, so you can start to get more prepared.
I could maybe add two to that list, and I would say treat AI LLM search like SEO in the early days. So it's trial and error. There's no Google Analytics. Go see exactly the clicks. You have to try. You have to. A great way to do that is actually to have conversational on your website and see what questions people are asking to make sure that you're answering those questions. Another great way to do that is to look at your reviews and look what people are talking about in all the different nuances of it. And the second recommendation, which is related, is really to focus on sharper positioning, again, of the brand, of the things that matter to your customers that you want to represent, to your products. I think one of the biggest differences is that agents can be so much more scientific, right? So much more specific in researching so many more websites. And so making sure that you really touch on all those criterias and all those different specs in your products and who they're good for, and not just the majority, the main PDP, right? All that long tail of information for different types of users is just major opportunity.
Yeah, so for me, I actually also wanted to say, use Shopify. I really think it's a leading platform. Use Yotpo. I really think it's a leading platform. Definitely, I want to say, like, stay curious, like go read more. I don't know, again, this is why I did my newsletter on Commerce GPT. There are tons of places, but you have to experiment, because again, this is a reset of the playground, and you want to be a player in the playground. And that's it. Thank you if you stayed with us. Thank you for staying with us. It's all about like helping you move to an AI first world. And thank you so much for the Shopify team. You've been great. And I think this has been like tons of value for merchants. And thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. That was fun.